You're listening to Entrepreneur's Enigma, a podcast about the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial journey. Every week, your host Seth Goldstein interviews entrepreneurs from all walks of life about their entrepreneurial journeys. From store owners to Fortune 500 CEOs, we all have stories to tell. So sit back and join us for the next 20 or so minutes while we explore the entrepreneurial world.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneur's Enigma podcast. I am, as always, your host, Seth. Today I'm here with a buddy of mine, Vince Quinn. Yes, he's Irish, because with a name like Vince Quinn, I mean, come on now. Well, Vince could be Italian.
And I am half Italian.
Oh, so you got the Vince, the
So
Italian, and the Quinn, exactly. And Vince is a Philly boy through and through, actually a Delco guy. That explains, Havertown. Let me guess, Havertown-ish area.
Not quite. I was
Havertown's
Alden,
Little Ireland. Havertown's Little Ireland.
Yeah. Delco is Little Ireland. It's so like, yeah, it was funny. I was so Alden, so super small town, but like Springfield, Drexel Hill, Briarcliff, Glen Olden.
Oh yeah, that's all Irish, Irish, Jewish, or Italian. It's what Delco. That's what Delco's made up of. It's really.
And so I'm Irish and Italian, and I'm marrying a Jewish woman. So there you go.
Hey, it all mixes up. Oh, you have some cute kids. There you go.
Well, if they look anything like either of us, 100%. It's a guarantee.
There you go. So anyhow, Vince works with entrepreneurs, charitable foundations, and brands to unlock the power of podcasting and marketing through podcasting. Before jumping into podcasting, you can probably tell he's got a good radio voice. He spent nearly 10 years in radio, working his way from handing out T-shirts at bars to hosting the nationally syndicated The Vince Quinn Show.
Yeah.
He's also got a good name, so you can kind of put that in front of show, and it works. Across 225 stations in the U.S. and Canada. He's a teacher, collaborator, and he loves smoothies, which is really cool.
Had one this morning.
Oh, you got to have your smoothie. Exactly. So we're going to talk to Vince about his journey, because, a lot of podcasters are not radio people. Like I was on a podcast yesterday. I was on someone else's podcast yesterday, and I was figuring out that everyone knew what I was going to do ahead of time before I did. Like everyone knew I was going to be a journalist. Everyone knew I was going to go into digital marketing. Everyone knew I was going to, and then everyone knew I was going to do podcasting or radio or something like that. And it's weird how I never knew that stuff, but it kind of happened. Was that the kind of case for you, that people were like, Vince has a good voice, he's going to go in the radio, or did you just kind of trip and fall into it? Because that's what.
I completely fell into it. I mean, when I got out of college, there were so many other things in the space that made sense that I wanted to do, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I was all about comedy. I loved comedy. I was writing jokes and stuff, doing open mics. I'm like, maybe I'll get into comedy. There was a point where
that's harder than radio. Ooh.
It is a grind. And you know what, frankly, I didn't have my voice yet. I wasn't that good. Like I would have needed so much time to really get good at it. I just wasn't like comfortable and confident in myself. It wasn't there. As much as I could write a joke, So like that was a hard route to go on, but it was something I was thinking about. I started a sports blog, and I didn't know about radio. But that's what led me in. But other stuff I was thinking about, like I thought I'd write commercials in TV, or
you're a typical millennial all over the effing place.
Yeah, I loved entertainment. You know what I mean? I just loved entertainment. I watched a ton of comedy growing up. I watched The Simpsons and Seinfeld every single day. I loved Family Guy and could quote every episode.
Oh, those are great shows.
Conan O'Brien was my guy and still is. Like those were my influences.
He's still ticking. He's like, talk about Irish good genes. The guy's like 65 and looks like he's like 40.
Yeah. No, he's great, and that's the
I feel
thing.
like Irish,
he's
you
done
either
it
look
so
really old and crusty, or you look really young. It's nothing in between.
Yeah, no, he's really active, and the guy takes care of himself. Like he knows what he's doing. He's just
it's tough to see in the comedy sector. It's really tough to see people taking care of themselves. It's a hard industry. Lots of cocaine, lots of drugs, lots of smoking, and and to see a comedian like look that good at 65 is like incredible. Jay Leno, he had that skunk hair since forever. He doesn't look bad. He's like 70s. He doesn't look bad, but good genes. But he still looks older. Conan looks like he's 40.
Yeah, and you also don't hear bad things about Conan, right? Like all the things for all these different comedians, you can hear about different problems they've got, and people in the industry don't like them.
Or they said something 10 years ago that is not PC now, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, seriously, that was 10 years ago, and he's a comedian. What the hell do you expect things don't hold up?
Yeah, It happens all the time. But Conan works because this whole thing is like he's so dumb and silly and whatever. So like his consistency through the ages, like it just always carries, and it goes from medium to medium. He's doing a travel show, he's doing the podcast, he's doing the late night show, the Hot Ones appearance, which went super viral. Like it just works everywhere. I mean, the guy's a genius. Or just the Irish luck.
And
that too. I mean, he was one of like 8. So
you were saying your dad's
one of them
because you're planning your wedding, so congratulations on that. And you said your dad's one of like 14.
He's one of 14. Yeah,
like that. Your poor grandmother.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I'm sorry. Like forget about the labor and giving birth to them, but 14 little crazy one. I mean, I guess at that point they're so far like they're like. They take care of themselves eventually. At some point, it's like they could leave the nest around 4, and they're kind of like whatever, that kind of thing. Like this is like genealogy chat.
it takes a village, and the village was in a household.
So it was awesome.
It was pretty crazy. Yeah. So there was a lot of that. But anyway, like getting back to actually answering your question. So how did I get into radio, Seth?
Yeah, how did you get into radio? How did you trip and fall into that? I mean, you had a wide variety of things you wanted to do. Typical millennial, wanting to do different things, wasn't sure what you wanted to do. You found something that's now become a lifelong hobby and profession.
Yeah, I took it as a flyer. I mean, what happened was I was working at a Bertucci's, and I had no idea what to do. I was just out of college. I moved back home from New York. I couldn't find a job up there, so I came back home from college, lived with my parents. Got a job at Bertucci's just because I had a connection there, and they needed somebody to slice pizzas. So that's what I did.
You were in a serve, or you were a pizza slicer?
I cut pizzas and did the takeout desk. That's what I did. I was not good at that either. But so I did that, and then as I was doing that job and like looking for work, trying to figure stuff, I applied to like reality shows to be like a set like gopher. I don't know, just whatever. I got a call from my uncle, and he was basically like, I know some people in radio. Would you be interested in doing sales in radio? And I told him no, I wasn't.
Really?
I didn't want to do it, so I hung up the call. Basically, I said thanks, but no thanks. And then he called me back a couple days later, and he's like, oh, well, they also have a spot in promotions. Would you be interested in interviewing for that? So I took an interview to do promotions, which was the handing out T-shirts at bars thing that you mentioned up front. Yeah. And is in my bio. Like that's what I did. I got in the door.
We're gonna take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show. For that, like kind of schmoozing, having fun. You're a young kid. Why not? That's like perfect for you.
Yeah, and it was sports radio. So, like, for me, I was a football nut. I was running a sports blog. Like, I watched every Eagles game religiously. When I got gifts from people, as a default, they got me something with an Eagles logo on it. Like, that's just how I was.
You have to say Eagles correctly. Even though you're from Delco, you say Eagles. You don't say Eagles.
Eagles, no. Well, I think I radio. You know what I mean?
You can say you weren't in Philadelphia radio, so you can say Eagles.
Well, and doing WIP, it's like I think I kind of. It's funny because I went to college in New York, right? So I go to Fordham. I'm up in the Bronx, and I'm meeting all these people from like Long Island and stuff. So my accent.
Long Island, you talk about an accent, jeez.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ask them to say chocolate. But yeah, like you talk to those people, and it's like, okay, well now my accent got lessened just from being out of Philly for a bit, and then once I got into broadcasting, you had to think about pronunciation. It's being on the air, not just for the fact that you want to be loud, you want to be clear. It's a different way of speaking than you normally do day to day. You've got to project more. You have to have more energy in the way that you do it.
Lots of caffeine.
Lots of caffeine because I was doing late nights, overnights, but like it took a while to get there, because I started in promotions. Like it's not common to do that, to be at events like that, and then work your way into actually being on the air and being a host.
Having your own show, for crying out loud, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was a dream, right? Because like I said, it was like I was a Conan obsessive, and in my 8th grade graduation book, they like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I want to be a late night talk show host, and there I was.
So it's not TV, but radio, but it still works.
But it was fun, and I loved it.
And late night.
Like, yeah, it was great because I had freedom, right, to some degree. Like my bosses weren't listening at 2 a.m. They didn't care. Like unless they were unless they were getting calls that I was doing something that was so destructive, which I never did. Then I had free reign to pretty much do whatever I wanted, and I just got to connect with like regular people. You know what I mean? Like
who were up at that hour, like the truck drivers and stuff.
Yeah, just truck drivers, people that can't sleep, like people on the West Coast when I was doing the national show, like whatever it was, or people getting up early in the morning to start their day. So like, yeah, just meeting those kinds of people and having conversations with regular people that could sometimes be like really dynamic, because sports can drift into like politics and social questions and
a lot
whatever.
of beeping, a lot of like hand on the beeper, especially in Philly, hand on the effing beeper.
Yes.
Beep, 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 beep. Yeah. Sorry, guys. That was a little obnoxious. Sorry if you were listening to that. So
it's all good. There was a lot of that too, especially late at night. So yeah, it was like I went through a lot of stuff, but it was a cool experience.
Oh, I bet.
And I learned a ton doing that.
That's awesome. And so doing that, you're doing the late night show, and then then you eventually, what led you to podcasting? I mean, like, what led you out of radio into the podcasting world? Like, why aren't you still, radio is weird. It's kind of here, but not there kind of thing, but
Well, yeah, and that's part of it, right? Like the industry was going away. I could feel it. Like there was a point where I was probably, and it was funny to feel it at the time, because I was like 26, right? And at that point, I've been hosting for about a year, which was exceptional in itself. Like there's not many guys my age.
At 26.
Yeah.
I mean, Pierre Robert, I think, was doing it since 26, but it's Pierre Robert, and it's local for Philly, but the MMR, but like,
and that's the beginning of the industry. You know what I mean? Like to some degree.
At the beginning, like, yeah. You're coming in towards the end of the industry at 26. It's like, wow.
Yeah. So it's so competitive, right? Like people don't leave Philly. So, and it's a big market. It's one of the best sports markets in the country. So like for the station
Philly!
and the gravity, yeah, baby. I got an Eagles. So anyway, like looking at all that stuff, it was like, okay, this is cool, and I'm in a great spot. Like for people my age, I'm way ahead, right? Like there were people all across the country that were 20, 25 years older than me, would have killed to be in the spot that I was in. And I'm like, okay, well, this is great, but what are the odds that I get? Yeah, it's like, where is the industry going? I'm seeing layoffs all around me. I know less and less people that listen to the radio. Nobody knows who I am, right? Just like casually speaking, like.
But it's kind of funny. You walked in this. That's one of the best things I was doing. I was a newspaper journalist. Talking about an industry that's going, gone.
Yeah.
But like everyone, when they found out who I was, they're like, oh, I read your column all the time. I read your stuff all the time. Oh, your stuff. You're so cool. But they never knew what I looked like. And on radio, they hear your voice. They wait, are you Vince Quinn? Like they hear the voice or they hear the name, and then they're like, oh, I'm a fan. But like we were both in two kinds of media that like you don't get recognized because it's either writing or verbal, nothing visual. So
yeah, and it was weird too because I had to do essentially all of the brand building on my own. I wasn't really like getting booked for appearances. I didn't have a salesperson that I was regularly in contact with to like get endorsements, to have commercials, or I wasn't getting major boosts on the social media account. You know what I mean? So it's like I had to build everything and be a voice behind the scenes. And you're doing all this work to keep up with all the teams and do a dynamic 4-hour show. Like it's an exhausting amount of work. The hours are brutal. You need to be fully committed to it. It's nights, it's weekends, it's over. Like
you burn out. You burn out.
And I completely burn out. And that was part of it. I was miserable, man. Like I was so miserable by the time I got to a certain point in my career. I just like, it was either I continue to do this until I just gut this out and I'm just going to will my way there and do it, still faster than people my age. But like, I was there. I was ready. I was ready for a full-time show. If somebody gave it to me, I could have done it. And I would have been very confident that it would have gone well. But I had to wait for other people to leave. I was in the line. I was behind people that were older than me, that had been around longer, that had stronger relationships. There is a political element.
Oh, there's definitely a political element. Oh, God, yeah.
So, yeah, it was like I can wait around and hope that I get a job in one of these markets that's close. Like I could get the national job and stay there and get a full-time national show. I could try to get a job back in Philly. I didn't want to go anywhere else. I didn't want to move. Like family, fiance's family, like they're all here. Why? I don't want to go to Cleveland. I don't want to go to San Francisco.
Cleveland. I love Cleveland, but don't get me wrong with that. But like, it's not exactly where you wouldn't need to be.
No, it's not where anything was. So it was like I'm looking at, so this is my future, right? Like I'm looking at all this and I'm like, what is this future for me really? And like if I've got this skill set and I have the work ethic, then I'm gonna figure it out somewhere. And I've gotten really far here. And is it worth staying here or should I change lanes? And podcasting, I got connected to. At the time, it was this independent podcast studio, and they were just helping really people from the neighborhood that wanted to talk sports or like what they did at the bar last night or cultural stuff. Like
fun stuff. Podcasts. We're not NPR here. It's definitely not NPR. Exactly.
So they were just like providing a studio space for people to do that. And they wanted somebody to come in that had some gravity. So me and another guy from radio got involved with the studio. And once I got in there, I was like, wow, like this is pretty amazing. I mean, this was like 2019. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I know podcasts are going this way. I've been involved in podcasts at this point for like 7 years. I've hosted shows pretty much throughout my entire my radio career. I was hosting podcasts. And I'm like, here's a studio. This is more or less an untapped market. There's a ton of potential. And I know what I'm doing. Like going from...
That's key. And a lot of times people get far in podcasting not knowing what they're doing yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it was almost like going from a 4-hour show and having to plan that and know all this different stuff with all news, right? So everything is sand through your fingers. There's not a whole lot of permanence to anything. You're always needing to update on the moment. And to go and change gears where I could help like business owners and things develop a podcast.
Let's stick here a little more evergreen, yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it felt like going from running a marathon every day to running a 5K. Like it was a completely different world. It was so much easier. I was so built for it, and it's modern. So awesome. It was like eventually it just became a completely obvious decision.
So how did you get into SBX Productions, which is you're the co-founder and creative director for? Like that little plug. Hey.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very thankful. What happened was I was at this other studio, right? So this other independent studio. I was getting my feel for things there, and then it just got to a point where I didn't like the approach of it. I thought things were falling apart. The guy that I was partnered with, like it wasn't working out, right? So it got to a point where me and some of the other people that were running the place decided we're going to go out and start our own thing. And when we did, we took every single client with us. They all came because, like, we were doing the work. We had, you know what I mean?
You were the known quantity, and
yes,
you weren't being nefarious and taking it. But they're like, we want to go with Vince. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's just what it was, you know. And like I deserved it. I earned it. You know what I mean? Like I was there. I put in the work. I have the experience, and I gave. You know, can I curse on the show? I almost did.
Curse all you want.
All right, I gave a shit about the people I was working with. You know what I mean?
Like, curse you're gonna give?
I want
to curse.
I mean, I could. I like your mentality there. I want to know what curses are in your book then. But beyond that, so like we did all that, and from there now I've had a couple of years like level up the kinds of clientele, refine all the processes, get more people on board.
I love it.
It's been a lot of experimenting and building, but at least I'm in control of it now, which is something I didn't have for the longest time in my life and career.
Yeah.
And so to be able to shape this business.
I mean, you're at the right time in your life where that's when I started Goldstein. I started right before I got married. Best time to start a business, 2008. But the idea is like you start your business before you have kids, before right when you're getting married. I mean, obviously your future wife's into this, thinks this is a good thing for you to do, supports you through it, and that's a big thing.
Big time.
And I mean, and now you're helping entrepreneurs and figuring out the podcasting and helping people, how to go about doing podcasting, how to do it if you want to do it weekly, what they should do to get it right. You're also helping produce their damn podcast, because not everyone's crazy like me who wants to do everything. Like I like having my hand in on everything, and I'm gotten to a point where I'm proficient enough where I can get everything done relatively quickly. I mean, mainly I don't edit unless there's a massive gaffe. Because again, we're not Terry Gross. We're not for Philly Marty Marascoine. We're not these like, NPR, National Public Radio. No, we're supposed to be showing the fat, shooting the shit. There's the shit word, and honestly not giving a fuck. There get the explicit tag finally. But that's the thing. Like, you don't give an F. You have fun, you do it, and if it's your business, you don't curse as much, maybe, or you curse a little bit, whatever. It's the dynamic of the show, and have fun with it. So here's the question. Since you've done the corporate grind, I mean, you have done the corporate grind. If anything knows
Big
about
time.
Grind, it's that. What's the best thing about being an entrepreneur in your mind?
Freedom. It's opportunity to choose your own destiny and live with the consequences of it, right? Because I think that's one of the biggest things. I think it is easy for so many people to be in a corporate environment and look at the things that are going wrong and just complain about those things, right?
Oh, yeah.
But not have the answers, right? It's just to complain about the state of the thing that you don't like. But when you're confronted with, okay, this situation is not good enough, it needs to be fixed, and I'm not fixing it properly, like, it forces you to get better or die. And like, I refuse to die. So it's okay.
Well,
what book am I gonna read? Like it's everything, man. I think it's one of the most essential parts of this. Like, you have to be willing to take an emotional beating all the time. You can't. You've got to have some level of in your ego being willing to admit that you're wrong and know that you need to adapt and find answers. So like with that being the case, I mean, all the different sources of information that I've had to find and the answers that I've been able to get, and with that experience, the confidence I can have going into all these different situations, like I have gotten so much better as a person, right? Like I'm just so much sharper. I've got so much more wisdom essentially. And
you're only 34 and you got a lot of wisdom. I mean, let's think about that for a little bit. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that you're 34 and you've already burned out once. Yeah, I was 34. I burned out once from journalism. So I guess it's kind of, we're on the same track with that. But I mean, when you think about it, you know, I mean, you're older and wiser beyond your years because you've done the corporate grind. Now, on the flip side, what keeps you up at night? What's the scary thing about being an entrepreneur?
God, I mean, to start. I'm bootstrapping this business, man. It's money, right? It's like it's all the time, right? I got to take care of my clients. I got to make sure that I'm doing a good enough job that they stay and they are happy. I've got to figure out improvements to that service. If my pricing isn't right, I've got to update that and figuring out those models and running through charts and checking all my finances, updating bank accounts to get better yields or changing the credit cards.
And pay for a wedding.
Yeah, going through the wedding. I've got to make sure that contractors and all that are helping me out right now, like I'm taking care of them. I also want to get those people to be full-time eventually. Like, how do I start budgeting for that? And what are the additional costs that are going to be in place? So like, there's so many things around money all the time. And of course it keeps me up because it's the lifeblood of everything. And it's why I do this, right? Like ultimately talking about freedom and all that, you want to make enough money that you're not sweating those things all the time and you have freedom. And like, I'm not worried about, oh my God, I need in radio, I was taking every overnight shift that they gave me. I was working every holiday because I needed the money. And there wasn't enough money in that business unless you're a full-time job to say no. So it's like, I'm going to take that shift. I don't care what the cost is, like, because it was a major cost, right? Personally, like all the things I didn't attend or left early or whatever, like just my sleep burning out, emotional, like all that. It all went because I just wanted to take the check and to build up some kind of independence where I don't have to do that. I'm comfortable. I can relax. I've got a future, and I built that. Like that's is awesome. Everything.
Yeah. That is incredible.
And so that's the whole focus all the time. So it keeps me up for sure. And it's because it's just fundamental. You have to take care of it.
So then, what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
Oh man,
isn't that a good one? I love that one.
Yeah, an open mind. I think to everything, right? Like approaching different people. Like here's my thing, right? I like to believe that I can see people. Like when they're presenting me with something, I can understand what they're talking about, where they're coming from emotionally, how they feel, the right way to engage with them conversationally to connect. Right. And I think there's so much listening involved in being able to do that. And like, as a good listener, I get places with people, I build good relationships and I like doing it, So having that kind of mindset of like, okay, what is this thing? Not going in judgmentally, just like, what is happening here? Who are you? What are you about? Tell me about this. How can I learn more? And how can I be more supportive to that? What does what I do, how does it align or how does it not align? Right. Because like, if they're not the right fit, I am good on the idea of like, you're not the right client for me. Like you should go over here. You should talk to this person. They're great.
Yeah,
I don't know who the answer is.
Provide them a referral. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So like going in with that idea of it's not just like hammer and nail and this needs to be that. It's like, okay, let me just understand what this is. And that can be not just with the sales stuff and interacting with people and networking and things like that, but it just goes to the day-to-day operations of your business and how you can be better. It's how do you do things at home better? How am I a better cook? How am I a better fiance and future husband? How do I clean up this apartment better?
That. You went from boyfriend to fiance, and then you got to change it to husband. You still screw it up. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's going to happen for sure. And that's the thing. But it's like I know all that stuff and I can appreciate that stuff and have an open mind about it. I try not to destroy myself with it. And it's just how do I get better and what are the ways to receive that information? And that it's just having an open mind at the end of the day.
Love it. So Vince, the best place for people to get in touch with you is sbxproductions.com/contact. You're on LinkedIn, you're around, but like best thing is reach out to them via there. That's a great place. Vince, this has been such a pleasure. This has been so much fun because you're like a younger version of me. God forbid. I feel bad. That was not meant to be an insult. It might have come out like one, but like literally, you've same kind of trajectory. Like did the journalism thing. You did the radio thing. You know, left college. I was like, what the hell am I gonna do with myself? Like, hi. I'm 43. I'm still trying to figure that shit out. It's constantly evolving. You know, that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's just like the world changes. I mean, look, when I got out of college and what the media landscape is from 2012 to now, it's radically different. So like,
it's totally different. Oh God.
So the whole world's changed. So it's just like you have to be able to adapt to that kind of stuff. And if you're not going to, like, it's obvious, but you do get left behind. And I refuse. So it's like, what is that modern thing? How do you adapt? How do you find that next thing? And I'm just always hunting for it and keeping my eyes open.
Love it, buddy. And we'll see everyone next week.
That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneur's Enigma, please consider giving us a review in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps us reach new listeners. If you like Entrepreneur's Enigma, consider the other shows on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net.
Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.